Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nugget's News. In this video, I want to talk about the countries that have the most opportunity for Bitcoin to really make a difference. If you haven't checked out this website, this is fiatleak.com, and it shows flows of Bitcoin around the globe. Now, if we scroll down here for you guys to see, majority are coming from US, a tiny bit of Europe, and particularly Japan. And at the moment, a lot of the Bitcoin volume comes from trading and speculation in investing rather than that real world usage and adoption that we're hoping for in the future. So check out this website if you haven't already, but let's dive in and take a look at a bit of the trading volume and statistics. So each day we have around $5 billion of Bitcoin traded, around 10% of the market cap, and that's basically stayed true as an average metric over time. So the more this 24-hour volume and trading increases, the more we'd expect this market cap to increase as real world usage increases over time. And if we go and have a look at a few of the exchanges, whether it's Coinbase or Bitfinex, we know we had a big run up in volume during that speculation at the end of 2017, and then volumes have really died off, a bit of an uptick recently and then dying down again. But there was actually a lot of trading volume back in 2015 at the end of that crypto winter. Now, when we head over to look at the markets, we see that BitMEX is just dominating, 15% of daily volume, but we have to be aware that they're a derivative. So they offer that 100 times leverage. So it can be slightly misleading. And the other thing to note that I'm quite skeptical about is some of the volume that these other exchanges are claiming. So everyone knows that Binance and most people have an account. A lot of traders have used Bitfinex. That was long been the world's largest trading platform. And then we just have all these other exchanges, some of these I haven't even heard of, that are claiming that they're doing more trading volume than Bitfinex and Binance. So pretty skeptical about that. A lot of wash trading, a lot of fake volume. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, not all countries even have exchanges, and in Australia, 25 million people have got a choice of 250 registered exchanges. There was a story recently. That is insane. Can you imagine having 4,000 exchanges in the US? And I think we're the most crypto-obsessed country per capita in the world. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Now, some countries aren't lucky enough, and local Bitcoins and peer-to-peer is the only way to trade. And if we look at local Bitcoins volumes, these huge peaks are back in 2015 in the crypto winter. A lot of Bitcoin was trading hands back then, and there were far less exchanges. So they've lost market share to exchanges. And we see even in December, volumes are record low on local Bitcoins. Everyone was trading and speculating on exchanges. Now that has started to pick up again recently, and this represents, I think, a lot more adoption happening in some of these other areas where local Bitcoins is the only choice. So we see countries like Kazakhstan trending higher. I'm just going to go over the top 10 that I picked out for you here. Dominican Republic, Chile, Kenya, Peru, Mexico, Colombia, Nigeria still trending pretty solidly. Venezuela, we know the story of hyperinflation there, where I think it was 50% of all transactions take place in Bitcoin now rather than using their own currency. And Russia trending high. Now, Russia actually had a period where they were obsessed with crypto back in 2016. So every country has their little story to tell. Japan at one stage, Cyprus back in the day, and I love reminiscing on those as well. So this next chart we're looking at is basically the banked versus the unbanked. The darker countries are, Australia and the US, where we've got between 80 and 100% of people have a bank account, all the way down to these lighter shaded areas where very few people have that banking or financial infrastructure in their country. And this is where the most opportunity lies. Now, when we look at these countries by population, Australia is hiding down the bottom corner there, guys. You can't see it behind me, but it's pretty small and insignificant when we compare it to India, China. We're always so obsessed with what's going on in the US and even the UK and Australia, but look at how small they are in terms of global population that they actually represent. There is so much opportunity here in Africa and South America, Central and Northern Europe, as well as once India and China get their regulations sorted out. I think the government are going to relax a little bit and allow people to use crypto sooner or later. Now, if we look at these growth statistics, 3% per year Doesn't sound a lot, but let's just compare that to some countries in green here that are actually shrinking. So Japan, Italy, a lot of these countries now have aging demographics and they're not having as many babies. So there's actually a shrinking population. Now, when we compare that to 3% growth in a lot of these countries throughout Africa, when you compound that growth and have a look at these numbers, it's actually pretty crazy. So a country like the Congo is going from 50 million people to 150 million people in around 20 or 30 years. Can you imagine adding an Australia worth of population every 5 years to a country? Absolutely crazy, some of these growth rates, and the average age in these countries is below 20 a lot of the time as well. So much potential there. When we look at these World Bank statistics, this is the number of mobile phone subscriptions per 100 people. So it's actually over 100. And when we look at some of these countries like Hong Kong, it's average of 2.5 connections per person. So maybe 2 phones, home phone, internet. I'm not sure how they count this, but we've had some serious penetration. We know those network effects that come from that. But even when we look at the countries that are the lowest on this list, South Sudan, Micronesia, Mozambique, Cuba, they're still up at around 40 per 100 people. So a lot of these countries now have at least a crude connection, and some estimates are now that 90% of people, even in these developing countries, have a basic mobile phone, and around 40-50% have a smartphone when we go down the list into some of these African nations. So it's still pretty decent and growing really aggressively. Now, what this means is that as these countries have a smartphone, we're rolling out satellite internet, 5G connection, wireless. Once they have that, they skip that entire banking infrastructure. Just like they're not waiting on broadband and phone lines to be rolled out, they're using mobile phones. They don't have to wait for banks and financial services to come to their country. There's more power in that smartphone than there were on the first spaceships that took our astronauts to the moon, guys. I'm sure you've heard that before, but think about what you can do at home from your smartphone. You can run a business, become an entrepreneur, as well as now having the financial means to do so. So that's why I'm so aggressive and positive on Bitcoin for the long run. I think it's going to be widely adopted in these countries. Head back over to fiatleak.com and check that website out if you haven't already. It does need you to refresh it each time you use it. It doesn't like these browsers. But looking forward to reading your guys' thoughts on what countries are going to dominate the crypto space going forward. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.